Welcome back to Talent Talk Radio Show. My next guest is Gus Van Dender. He's the CEO of CNNECTED. As a reminder, don't forget, you can go to talenttalkradio.com and find out all about us. You can subscribe there, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all of that. And of course, we want to hear all about what you think about the show on Twitter. At PeopleG2 is where we live tweet all of our shows. You can also search by the hashtag Talent Talk to find us and anything else being said. But let's go ahead and bring in my my buddy, I almost said bus. My bus, Gus. That is stupid, but
Gus on the bus.
You do this all the time when you're on radio. You just say stupid things. So my buddy, Gus. Gus, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a little intimidating to be like in a real studio.
In a real studio. There's a lot of it going on in here too.
Yeah,
I mean, this is like Paul's brain, like 10% of Paul's brain, our engineer in this room. But yeah, so why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what's important for us to know, and what you're doing over there at CNNECTED.
So what I do is actually I've been a business consultant for a long time because I'm really passionate about business and creating good experiences, not just for the clients but also for the employees. So early this year, one, because I was asked to do so by Facebook, but also because I figured out what is really important inside of companies is the people, right? And for the longest time, I had been helping business owners grow their business by focusing on revenue or sales or marketing, and it always kind of left me with like a hollow feeling of, okay, we're making more money, but where does that leave us, right? As a business owner, my client, for me, I did accomplish some cool stuff. We're making more money, but then where does that leave the employees, right? Where does that leave the most important part of the business? So working with Facebook and their enterprise platform called Workplace gave me this outlet to like do the same thing, but focus on something different inside of the business, aka the people, and creating an experience for them that is more engaging and more fun, and I just want to eradicate this disease of disengaged employees and having people go to work because they just need the paycheck.
Right. Well, what kind of brings this sense of passion for you? I mean, some might even call it an obsession, right, with culture and community with inside of an organization, because it's probably a pretty easy gig to go in and help people twist a few things, move things over here, and suddenly you can get your revenue up, you can get your profits up. But working on the culture part is not easy, right? And it's not one size fits all. And humans are messy and complicated and rewarding all the same thing. So where does that passion come from for you?
Yeah, as you can probably tell, I have an accent, right? I'm originally from Belgium, from Europe, and
I think it's so funny, first of all, that you have to say Europe, this is sad for us, America, that he has to qualify that Belgium is in Europe. But okay, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, north of France, south of Holland.
Oh, yeah, that place on that map.
Yeah, close to Germany. I know, it's funny, right? But that actually brings me to my story, right? Moving here as a European obviously showed me that there are a lot of cultural differences. And especially in my experience, because I look the same, people also expected me to be the same. Right? And if I have a different color skin, or it's obvious that I'm from a different country, you expect different cultural habits or behavior. For me, that wasn't the case, right? So that got me inside of business, and my professional life in particular got me into really interesting situations, right? I can remember a meeting where I just got really excited and I use my hands and my arms to talk, and when I'm passionate about something, I show it, right? And I'm sitting there in front of my newly, my staff, there's 20 people there that I was in charge of now, and they thought I was angry. I was going to fire everybody. They were like crawling under their desk. They had no idea what was going on. And I was just so energized and excited about a thing that we were going to implement. And so it's just, for me to experience that, having a different cultural background and then tying that to business, that's just what keeps me excited and figuring out how we can fix that inside of companies. And then
Right.
also just because of the landscape, you know probably as well as I do, we're getting more and more different generations inside of one company.
Right.
We're getting different people from different cultural backgrounds inside of one organization. We have this gig economy going on. We have, the world is becoming a lot smaller. We have people working in the Philippines and Mexico and in Romania, like all over the place. So this topic and conversation of culture is becoming even more apparent and even more important to make organizations flow and work.
So if you look at, as you sort of describe the world becoming a smaller place. So inside of workplaces, we have probably the most diverse workplace we've ever had, right?
Yep.
Whether it's physically people in your office being more diverse, or the fact that you're working with teams from all around the world, right?
Yep.
This is a completely different atmosphere than Anytown, USA, where it was you and the 5 families you know really well all working together, right? Which
Yeah.
is not that long ago that was
No.
the scenario. And then you have, I think it's 5 generations coming up on potentially 6 generations all working together in the same place, albeit sometimes very well, sometimes not very well. There's a lot of complexity there just on a human level, right? Not even talking about what it is the CEO or the leadership team has to do to try to set the right mission and the right values for an organization. You just have like messy human stuff at a new level that's never been at. So if you're going to go in, if we're going to talk about to help a culture, what needs to be in place as a starting point, do you think, for any organization to just support a good company culture, strong culture?
Yeah, I've summarized that in what I call the 5 pillars of what supports a strong company, engaged culture.
Now
right?
you have 5, right?
There's 5.
Because
Yeah,
I have 7. So does that mean
know.
I'm better?
Yeah, you are.
Or more complicated?
Of course, you're
It makes me more complicated. I
You
think.
run this show, not me. That's
All right, let him. What's your 5?
yeah. So my 5 are: 1, servant leadership, meaning there's different explanations for that word, but for me it means somebody who's really passionate about serving others through what they know, what they've experienced. That brings authenticity, right? That's the number one thing. I mean, you can share values, but if it's not real, if it's not something you lived and you learned, then it's hard to be a servant leader and to really show that you care about your people and your clients, right? The second one is growth journey. People gravitate to a journey, an experience, right? And if you can constantly show that there's growth and opportunity available for your people, for your staff, then they're going to stay engaged. They're going to stay aligned with what you are presenting them with, right? And the third one I call collective individualism, where even as a collective, subscribing to the same value and going towards the same targets, there still needs to be a feeling of, okay, I'm an individual and I matter. Whether I'm a woman or a man or black or white or yellow, whatever, I am an individual with individual needs and individual ideas and individual thoughts and values and what have you. So we need to create an environment where that is recognized, right? And where people feel like, okay, I am part of this tribe, this group for a particular reason, but I still matter as an individual as well, right? So that's the third one. Then the fourth one I call, when I talk about culture, I really look at group habits, right? It's a different definition, but it comes down to the same thing, right? So we have to create group habits. And what that instills is this idea of, okay, I belong to this group and we have certain habits here. Like we wear a specific T-shirt or we do this weird handshake or whatever, right? It's a group habit, and that's what creates a feeling of belonging to a group. And then the fifth one I call current relevance, where I can tell you stories from 20 years ago, but if I can't make that relevant today, then what's the point, right? So if what we do and what we deliver and what we are involved in and engaged with is not current or relevant, then people are just going to be like, I don't want to subscribe to this as an employee or as a client, right? So those are the five key elements for me.
So maybe we kind of springboard off of that last one, right? We're making it relevant. I mean, we see a lot of leaders that try to make their culture look like or feel like, or just kind of take a carbon copy of a Google or a Facebook or something, right? Which isn't really applicable to their organization. They're not doing the same thing. They're not selling the same thing. They don't have the same people. I mean, I make a joke about it in my book about few of us have all the money and the sexiness to get all those incredible people that Google can get, right? So trying to build a culture for that group of people, for your people, it's just apples and oranges. And so, so what happens when a company kind of takes this approach? I mean, have you seen examples of what happens to their culture when they try to just say, well, that thing's good, let's just do that here?
Yeah. I've seen that, and what I always say is culture is not created; it just is. Right? Because you are born somewhere, you're going to be part of a specific culture, and you're going to adopt certain habits. Right? So if I were to imagine, if I tried to bring the American culture to Belgium and see what would happen, it wouldn't work, right? Because you're trying to recreate or force certain habits down on people that they didn't subscribe to just because they're there. Right. So if you're looking at Google and Facebook and we need bean bags and ping pong tables, well, why?
Right.
That doesn't make sense, because your culture inside of your company just is. It's there based on the people you've hired and based on how you show up every morning inside of the office.
Yeah.
So it's not something you create. It's something that just exists, and there's a way to morph that into something that serves you better. But that doesn't mean that what works for Google is going to work for you.
Right.
Right.
And then you can kind of simplify this. I've seen this when I travel. If you happen to be somewhere when a holiday that's very specific to your country occurs while you're traveling, like I was in London one time on the 4th of July, right? So this is a big day really celebrating our independence from England.
Yeah, it's funny.
And there was only one place that had like American flags and we're trying to do a celebration. It was a pub trying to make money off Americans coming in. Right? But everyone else was completely ignoring the fact that it's the 4th of July, which is like one of the biggest holidays in America. But to your point, I couldn't just show up and be like, hey guys, ready? Here's the sparklers. Let's have a barbecue. And they'd be like, for what again? Right? Not that they can't celebrate. The idea of celebrating something certainly can resonate, but that specific thing is too specific to where I come from or what's happening over here, as opposed to that new group of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. What can you learn from something? What can you learn from Google? What can you learn from Facebook? And then what still resonates? What can you take and maybe incorporate? And what do you got to let go, right? What do you got to kind of filter out that doesn't apply, that doesn't work? The idea of celebrating, the idea of being with your family, those are concepts from 4th of July that would transfer anywhere, right? But the specific customs and rituals and things that you do on that day in most of the places, anywhere else in the world, don't work at all.
No. And that comes down to what culture really is, right? Like I said, it's certain habits, right? It's not the tactics or the practical applications that matter. It's just the fact that you as a leader show that you care. And you want to create an environment that fits the people that you have working with you.
Right.
Right. So it's not only about, hey, are you aligned with what I want to build and my values and my goals and my targets? It's also, do we fit as a community? And because we're going to spend a lot of time together. Right. So it's not, like you said, like the example that you gave, it's not about the flag that I'm waving. It's about the celebration of a specific event, right? In Belgium, we have July 21st. Same thing, same idea, but it's a different day,
different
right?
day,
and we do
different
different
meaning.
things.
Right.
We have January 6th. We have Three Kings Day, right? People make pancakes and kids go out, and that wouldn't work here.
No. Right.
So it's the same thing. You can't just take...
I'll eat pancakes, but
yeah, I know.
I don't know about the Three Kings. So
yeah, I can teach you the song. You have to sing for a quarter.
For a quarter.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that there will be lots of beer involved before I might learn that song correctly. So
yes, absolutely.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, you talked about your pillars. We heard a lot of really good similarities of things that we've talked about on the show before, so I think they really resonate. But is there something, fundamental that makes a culture successful? I mean, aside from the pillars, I mean, is it strong leadership? Is it that people are all, sort of, I hate to use this term, but rowing the boat in the same direction, right? What is that kind of overarching big concept thing that needs to be happening for them to be successful?
I think what is the key point here that I want to drive home is that everybody in the organization needs to understand that culture and profit are related.
Right.
And we tend to forget that. And just from my experience as a business consultant, not focusing on that enough, getting results, yes, but then realizing, wait a second, if I just focus on my people and I focus on building that culture and I focus on making them more engaged, guess what's going to happen? It drives profit.
Yeah.
Right? That's the key thing here. Not even looking at the tactics and the practical application of all of this. You focus on your people, that's going to drive profit. It's going to drive growth.
And there's so many studies around that, right? There's so much proof point to that.
Yes.
That the companies that have these great cultures, that work on culture, they outperform in their industries, they're more profitable. I mean, all these things.
Yeah.
And yet I noticed this phenomenon that the companies that typically will call me and want to consult, want me to help them and do these things, they tend to be B+, A- in culture, right? They're already pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I always find it fascinating because I would love to be working with the companies that are getting like a D+, right? Maybe not the Fs, but that they're just really struggling. They really don't get it. And yet they're not anywhere near in the headspace. They could not be, any farther away from ever wanting my help or anyone's help to get their cultures better. They just don't get it. So, it's like those kids who have a really good SAT score and they go to SAT class like afterwards, right? And you're like, isn't that's already going to get you into school? No, I want to get a little bit better, right? And it's that mindset of getting a little bit better and always wanted to tinker with something or learn something new. That I think is a part of that mindset.
Yep.
For
and
them.
I totally agree, and that's also why I make that like the overarching idea, right? Because I'm not actually sold on the idea of bad and good culture. The culture, like I said, culture just is, right? So we can't really. I don't even think we can grade a culture. It's just, does it contribute to the growth of the company? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, then there's room for improvement. But that doesn't mean that the culture in that company is bad. It just is, right? That's the way they operate. These are the habits that they have. This is the way they communicate or not communicate. This is where there's a lack of connection and collaboration. But that doesn't mean that the culture is bad. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it is. And it has an effect, positively or negatively, on the production and on the results of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And, certainly if you words good or bad, I mean, maybe effective or ineffective. I mean, those are all, I find quite a bit are ineffective. There certainly are some that are toxic as well that maybe, fall into, we get down in the C and D level. But it I find it so easy to do some really basic things that have a huge impact. Now, to get to A- and up, that is hard work. And you got to be dedicated to it. I mean, I think you really have to work hard, and your people really have to be, in line and want to do that. But to get into up near B+, it's not that hard.
No.
To do some basic things and to talk about some things, and and get your people aligned and get them talking about things, and there's so many. Most companies aren't doing this.
No, and in my opinion, all it takes is a strategy. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's not hard. If you have a strategy, meaning I have a plan, there's certain things that I want to put in place over this period of time, then you're making progress.
Right.
So it is not hard, right? To get to that A+, environment and organization, yes, that requires a completely different mindset. But to make things better so you become more effective as an organization, that doesn't require a lot. Just having a plan and being conscious and aware of the fact that, hey, we could do a little bit better in communication and collaboration and put the right tools in place so we can create this environment for our staff. It's not hard. Right. It's just a matter of knowing where you're going and having the plan in place to execute that.
Well, as we mentioned, one of the things that's important is to always be learning something new. And I'm wondering if there's a book that you're reading right now, or maybe one that you typically suggest people check out that would be fascinating for our listeners to check out.
I'm actually reading a book that is not directly related to this conversation.
That's okay.
But it's called Can't Hurt Me.
Okay.
From Goggins. I forgot his first name. So it's it's a fascinating book. It's this guy who had an amazingly negative youth growing up, like all this adversity and all these challenges that he had as a black man, and with his family, and his father got shot and whatever. But he has this idea that he can callous his mind like he does the palms of his hand when he's working. So he describes his life and how he overcame all these obstacles by just using his mind to get over everything.
Right.
And getting into this mindset of, well, this can't hurt me either, because I can use my mind to get over this.
Yeah.
So David Goggins, that's his name.
There you go. That was fascinating. And we get so many great book recommendations, so I appreciate you bringing that one up. You've talked about a lot of great things here today. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you or learn more about Connected? And it's connected with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's important to know. But what's the best way for them to find out more?
I wish all the listeners were on Workplace, so we could connect there, but I don't think that's the case. But the best way to get a hold of me is email, gus@connected.com, or check out my website.
And that's CNNECTED.
Correct.
All right.
Connected with an O.com was already taken, so I just took the O out.
Took the O out. All right. Well, we'll make sure those emails end up to you and not somebody else. So, Gus, thanks so much for being on the show today. Hopefully everyone has learned a little something they can take back with them into their work, into their lives, into their careers, and make things better. So next week, I'll be joined by two guests, David Kirsch, another Belgian, 2 in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Met him in Amsterdam. We'll talk about that later.
I'm surprised you don't ask me, do you know him?
Well, come on. It's a big place. I may be American. I'm not completely. Anyways, he's a business consultant and trainer. And then we'll bring in Jody Banerjee, and I'm probably murdering her name. I will get it fixed before the next one. But a consultant for Energage. So until then, do what you love and show the world how talented you can be today.
You've been listening to Talent Talk Radio, brought to you by People G2.